Hi, my name is Stephen McGee and I'm the author of Electrical Forensics. And we're here to do a review on these plants. All of these plants are being grown in contact with flooring that is electrified. And that electrification of the flooring is commonly known in the industry as stray voltage. My home has a particularly bad stray voltage problem, and that's why I developed this experiment. And the experiment involves using these heavy clay water bases, and there's a piece of foam on the base, and then the base is actually wrapped in aluminum kitchen foil. And then the pots of all these plants have foil going in to the root system to electrify the root system of the plant from the electrified floor that it sits on. And we have two sets of plants. So I did this experiment in 2013, and I'm now repeating it with plants that I purchased in February 2014. So we're going to contrast the differences between the plants, and we can see what's happening. Now this is the best plant. So this plant is actually grown in contact with my master bathroom floor, and you can see that we don't have the full size leaf growth, which is typically the size of your hand, but we have something that is much better than my controls. So the electrification on the bathroom floor, the master bathroom, is actually the lowest electrification in the whole home, and the plant appears to grow the best in contact with that floor. So that was last year's plant. This is this year's plant. So you can see the way these plants come into my home is with these big leaves, and it's now putting up leaves that are comparable to last year's plant. And the Dichlombachia typically has these leaves that have the dark green outer and the lighter patterned green interior. So that was the master bathroom. So we're going to go to the next worst plant, and this one is my front hallway tile floor. So this is as close to the street as you can get. So you can see that we've got last year's plant and we've got this year's plant. So let's take a look at what's going on with these. So this is how last year's plant grew in that location. So you can see that we've got these tiny leaves with very little patterning, very glossy leaves. Very typical of a radio frequency exposure, this glossy green leaf effect. And the entire plant is somewhat looking the same. It's very stalky, has this very stalky branching structure to it. So this year's plant is showing an interesting effect. So as you can see, it came in with very large leaves. It's now started putting up leaves that are very shiny with no patterning. So again, it's very typical of a radio frequency exposure. And you can get radio frequencies coming up from the floor. If you look at the grounding system, you'll find there's a wide range of radio frequencies in the grounding system waveform. But the interesting thing about this plant is right here. So you can see that we've got a pattern leaf, and then we've got a leaf with no patterning. But if you follow it down, you see that they're coming from the same branching structure. So for some reason the one on the left grew patterned, and the one on the right grew with no patterning. And it's not unique to this particular branching structure. Here's another one. Same branch splits into a pattern leaf and a very glossy leaf with very little to no patterning. And it appears to be happening throughout the plant, so that's how it's growing this year in that particular location. So our final set of plants is the kitchen floor. Now the thing that's interesting about this kitchen floor is the fact that it's the closest floor to the transmitting utility meters. It's also the closest floor to the utility equipment. So it's the closest floor to the fuse board. and we get the most deformity in this location. So this is last year's plant. So you can see we've got the very small shiny leaves, typical of a radio frequency exposure. Very strange branching structure. And this is this year's plant. So again, it's not looking very healthy. You can see the last of the original leaves on the plant, and the new leaf growth is looking like this. So it currently is in the process of deforming, and my conclusion at this point is that this year's plants are starting to look like last year's plants. So that tells me that this experiment is actually repeatable with almost the same results. But to get confirmation of that, we need to leave this experiment running for considerably more time, and I will do another update on this experiment at the end of the year. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and I wish you the very best of health. Thank you.